For generations, the Israelites had endured unimaginable suffering in Egypt. They toiled tirelessly as slaves, forced to build grand cities and monuments for Pharaoh. Their lives were filled with hardship, their spirits crushed under the weight of oppression. Their cries for freedom reached the heavens, a desperate plea for deliverance from their misery. Each day the Israelites prayed for a savior, someone to break the chains of slavery and lead them to a land of their own. Unbeknownst to them, their prayers were about to be answered. A shepherd named Moses, raised in Pharaoh's palace but destined for greatness, would soon take on the mantle of leadership. Moses, once a prince of Egypt, had been living in exile in the land of Midian. It was there, amidst the rugged mountains, that he encountered God in the form of a burning bush. God spoke to Moses, revealing his plan to free the Israelites from bondage and deliver them to a land flowing with milk and honey. God bestowed upon Moses the power to perform miracles, signs that would convince Pharaoh to release his grip on the Israelites. Armed with God's authority and a heavy heart, Moses set out for Egypt with his brother Aaron, ready to confront Pharaoh and demand the freedom of his people. Moses and Aaron, emboldened by God's promise, stood before Pharaoh in his opulent palace. They delivered God's message, a clear and unwavering demand: "Let my people go, so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness." Pharaoh, accustomed to absolute power and surrounded by sycophants, listened with a mixture of amusement and disdain. The thought of releasing his vast slave labor force was unfathomable to Pharaoh. He scoffed at Moses and Aaron, questioning their authority and dismissing their God as insignificant. For Pharaoh, the Israelites were nothing more than possessions, tools to be used and discarded at his whim. Pharaoh, his heart hardened by pride and arrogance, refused to acknowledge the God of Israel or the suffering of his people. "Who is the Lord that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go," he declared, his voice dripping with contempt. Instead of heeding Moses' warning, Pharaoh doubled down on his oppression. He reasoned that if the Israelites had time to worship their God, they would become lazy and unproductive. Pharaoh's stubbornness set in motion a chain of events that would shake Egypt to its core and demonstrate the awesome power of the God of Israel. Pharaoh's response to Moses' plea was swift and brutal. He ordered his taskmasters to increase the Israelites' workload, making their already unbearable lives even more difficult. The Israelites, already struggling to meet their quotas, were now subjected to relentless demands for bricks, without even being provided the necessary straw. The Israelites, forced to gather their own straw while maintaining the same level of brick production, were driven to the brink of despair. Their cries of pain and exhaustion filled the air, a testament to Pharaoh's cruelty and the desperation of their situation. Despair and doubt among the Israelites. As the Israelites toiled under the weight of Pharaoh's oppression, despair began to set in. They had dared to hope that Moses, their supposed deliverer, would bring an end to their suffering. Instead, their lives had become even more unbearable. The Israelites, their spirits crushed, turned on Moses and Aaron, blaming them for their misfortune. "May the Lord look upon you and judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials and have put a sword in their hand to kill us," they cried out in anguish. Moses' plea to God. Moses, caught between Pharaoh's stubbornness and the Israelites' despair, cried out to God, "Lord, why have you brought trouble upon this people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble on this people, and you have not rescued your people at all." Moses, facing the full weight of Pharaoh's wrath and the Israelites' dwindling faith, needed reassurance. He had risked everything to answer God's call, but now he found himself questioning the purpose of his mission. A promise of deliverance. God, in his infinite mercy, heard Moses' plea and reassured him of his unwavering commitment. He reminded Moses of the covenant he had made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a promise to deliver their descendants from slavery and bring them to the promised land. God assured Moses that Pharaoh's heart would be hardened further, leading to a series of plagues that would demonstrate the awesome power of the God of Israel. He promised that Pharaoh would eventually relent, releasing the Israelites and acknowledging the sovereignty of the one true God. The stage is set for a showdown. With God's promise echoing in his heart, Moses prepared for the next stage of the confrontation. He knew that Pharaoh would not relinquish his grip on the Israelites easily, but he also knew that God would be with him every step of the way. The stage was set for a showdown between Pharaoh, the self-proclaimed God-king of Egypt, and the God of Israel, the one true God who held the fate of nations in his hands. The plagues were about to begin, each one a testament to God's power and a judgment on Pharaoh's stubborn refusal to acknowledge his authority.